Today's major league hitters are facing pitchers who throw harder, spin sharper breaking balls, and deliver more deceptive pitches than at any other point in baseball's history. Strikeouts have soared to unprecedented heights, while injuries, from sore shoulders to catastrophic ligament tears, continue to rise at an alarming rate. Pitching wins championships was true a century ago when it was first uttered, and it remains true today. What has changed, however, is the entire philosophy behind pitching. The ways teams scout, develop, and deploy pitchers have shifted dramatically over the past 2 decades, reshaping the sport itself. Baseball now faces a serious pitching dilemma. To understand how pitching has transformed in the last few decades, one has to step back and examine the mindset pitchers carried into the 1980s and 1990s. Back then, evaluators consistently relied on 3 basic criteria to measure the quality of a pitch: velocity, movement, and accuracy. Velocity meant the raw speed of the throw. Movement referred to the way the ball danced or dipped after release. And accuracy focused less on whether a pitch was called a strike and more on whether the ball ended up where the pitcher truly intended. For most of baseball's history, these 3 qualities were weighted relatively evenly. Of course, flamethrowers like Randy Johnson or Nolan Ryan Greg Maddux carved out Hall of Fame careers without elite velocity, relying instead on pristine command and wicked late movement. Maddux's fastball rarely touched even 86 miles per hour near the end of his career, but his artistry on the mound showed that deception and precision could be just as dominant as raw power. Everything began to change at the turn of the 21st century. Modern scouts, general managers, and player development systems impact hitters. Technology played a pivotal role in this evolution. The introduction of systems like Pitch/X in 2006 and later StatCast in 2015 gave front offices unprecedented access to data. Scouts were no longer limited to radar guns and subjective observations. They could analyze spin efficiency, vertical break, release extension, and release consistency. Player development departments began tailoring training regimens to maximize velocity, even designing individualized biomechanical programs to squeeze out extra miles per hour. Today, nearly every bullpen session is monitored with high-speed cameras and motion sensors, reinforcing the central role of velocity in talent evaluation. At the same time, the rise of analytics-driven decision-making has reshaped the landscape. The Moneyball revolution of the early 2000s, spearheaded by Billy Beane's Oakland A's, shattered traditional assumptions. Teams began leveraging advanced metrics to maximize value, optimize matchups, and refine player development. Pitchers were evaluated through spin rate trackers and biomechanical analysis. Managers began pulling starters earlier, deploying specialized bullpen arms, and shifting defenses based on granular hitter tendencies. Today, almost every pitch is guided by data, from the location of a catcher's target to when a starter is pulled after facing the order a 3rd time. The combined effect of increasing velocity and statistical optimization has been enormous. Strikeouts have skyrocketed, reaching unprecedented levels. In 2018, for the first time in Major League history, there were more strikeouts than hits across the league. That trend didn't prove to be a one-year anomaly. The following seasons only deepened the gap, with pitchers outmatching hitters by thousands of strikeouts in 2019, 2020, and 2021. The very balance of the sport had shifted. Pitchers, once in a delicate duel with hitters, were now overwhelmingly dominant. The growing dominance of pitchers has fueled a trend known as the 3 true outcomes, TTO, a term coined around the year 2000 by baseball writer Rainey Jazzy Early. Originally used to describe sluggers like Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire, who seemed to produce either a home run, a walk, or a strikeout in every at-bat. The phrase has since broadened to capture a troubling shift in baseball's overall rhythm. In modern play, a staggering proportion of plate appearances now result in one of these 3 scenarios, rather than balls being put into play. From 1990 through 1999, the average TTO percentage sat at just over 27%. Even the highest single-season TTO rates in that era barely grazed 29%. But beginning in the 2010s, the rates spiked rapidly. By 2012, it surpassed 30%. By 2014, it was above 32%. In 2020, more than 36% of at-bats ended in either strikeout, walk, or home run, the highest ever recorded. Over the past 5 seasons, the league average has hovered near 35%. In essence, more than a third of all trips to the plate now bypass the once-rich variety of grounders, bloop singles, line drives, and defensive plays. For some fans and analysts, this predictability is concerning. The rhythm of baseball has traditionally thrived on surprise. A sudden stolen base attempt, a blooper falling between outfielders, or a dazzling defensive stop in the infield. With more outcomes reduced to homers, strikeouts, and walks, many argue that the sport feels flatter, slower, and less dynamic. The rise of launch angle hitting philosophy, which encourages batters to swing for home runs even at the cost of more strikeouts, has only intensified this effect. But the consequences stretch far beyond aesthetics. For pitchers, the relentless pursuit of velocity has exacted a severe physical toll. Medical experts have repeatedly warned that the human arm is simply not built to endure the stress of throwing 95+ mph fastballs hundreds of times per week. Dr. Glenn Fleesig, a leading figure in baseball biomechanics, has stated plainly, velocity itself is a risk factor for injury. The larger bases and disengagement limits have already led to an uptick in stolen bases, reintroducing speed and small ball tactics into the game. If these trends continue, pitchers may need to adapt their approaches, focusing not only on striking hitters out, but also on managing the running game and inducing weak contact. Technology, too, is shaping the next phase. High-speed motion capture, wearable biomechanic sensors, and advanced data systems are giving pitchers and trainers more insight than ever before. Some believe this tech revolution could actually help mitigate injuries by identifying flaws in mechanics before they cause damage. Others argue it may only push pitchers further toward unsustainable extremes, chasing marginal gains that the body cannot support long-term. Perhaps the most important factor, though, is how fans perceive these shifts. Baseball, at its core, is entertainment. If games grow too predictable, filled with strikeouts, walks, and the occasional homer, the casual fan may lose interest. MLB's recent changes suggest the league is aware of this and willing to intervene. Whether those interventions protect pitcher health remains an open question. In the end, the story of modern pitching is one of remarkable athletic achievement paired with unintended consequences. Pitchers today are more powerful, efficient, and technologically optimized than ever before. But the costs, rising injuries, declining variety in outcomes, and concerns about sustainability loom large. As history shows, baseball tends to correct itself, often in unexpected ways. Just as hitters once learned to combat Maddox's precision or Gibson's, they cannot be strengthened or rebuilt the way muscles can. He's right, and his warning echoes across the medical community. Most sports medicine professionals now agree that modern pitchers may already be brushing against the natural ceiling of human performance. There will always be outliers, the Jacob deGroms or Spencer Striders of the world, who seem to squeeze out that extra gear. But for the average pitcher, the idea of routinely adding 2 or 3 more miles per hour may simply be unrealistic. Biology has its limits. That doesn't mean pitching dominance is disappearing. If anything, the duel between hitters and pitchers is still tilted toward the mound. Yet there are signs the tide could shift again. For now, though, fans should pause and appreciate what they're witnessing. Rarely in the long history of Major League Baseball has the game showcased such a deep pool of elite arms at once. Veterans like Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, and Garrett Cole continue to frustrate lineups with Hall of Fame caliber stuff, while younger stars like Shohei Ohtani, Strider, and Alek Manoah bring new energy to the craft. Balance will come eventually, as it always does. But in the meantime, let's savor the heat while it lasts.